If you're an international student planning to work in the US after graduation, sit down for this one, because a number just leaked out of Washington that could change everything you've been planning for: $100,000. That's the figure now being discussed inside the Department of Homeland Security, tied directly to OPT, the program that lets international graduates actually work in this country after finishing their degree. Right now, roughly 419,000 international graduates are working under OPT, and every single one of them, along with anyone hoping to join that number soon, just saw a headline that could reshape their entire future. But before you panic, before you stop preparing your paperwork, before you make a single decision based on a headline alone, I need you to hear the most important fact first. This fee is not active today. No final rule has been issued. USCIS has not told a single OPT applicant to pay $100,000. So tonight, let's slow down and go through exactly what's been reported, what's still completely unknown, who could actually be affected, who isn't facing any change right now, and most importantly, what you should actually do with your time this week without missing a real deadline while you're busy worrying about one that doesn't exist yet. Here's what we actually know as of July 31st, 2026. The Wall Street Journal broke this story, reporting that the administration is considering this idea inside DHS, specifically looking at placing a $100,000 charge on the ability of international graduates to work through OPT. That's it. That's the confirmed fact. Everything else, who pays it, when it starts, whether it even survives internal review, is still completely undecided. There's no public instruction yet explaining who would actually be responsible for paying: the student, the employer, the school, or someone else entirely. It's also not confirmed whether this would apply only to the first 12-month OPT period, only to the STEM extension, or both. Nobody's said whether it would be a one-time charge or something recurring. And I want to be honest with you. These missing details aren't just paperwork gaps, they're the entire ballgame, because they're what actually determines who ends up carrying this cost if it ever becomes real. Now, here's something that actually helps explain why this specific number, and why now. Earlier this year, the Trump administration tried to attach a $100,000 fee directly to H-1B visas, and that effort got significantly narrowed after major pushback from the tech industry, and a federal appeals court in Boston ultimately blocked its collection while a legal challenge continues. So here's the thing worth understanding. Large tech and finance companies typically don't hire H-1B workers from overseas as their main pipeline. They recruit graduates directly from American universities, people already here on OPT, and later convert them to H-1B status. Which means a fee attached to OPT itself would actually hit those companies far more directly than the original H-1B fee ever did. In other words, if the H-1B fee was aimed at the front door, this is aimed at the back door that a lot more companies actually use. And this isn't happening in isolation either. The State Department is separately weighing something just as significant, a proposal that could require certain green card applicants outside the U.S. to post a $100,000 bond, refundable only after they relocate and obtain their status. Put those two proposals side by side, and a much bigger pattern starts to emerge: a coordinated push across multiple agencies to attach massive dollar figures to nearly every major pathway into long-term life in America. Before we go further, if this is genuinely useful information for you or someone in your life navigating this exact situation, Go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this story is moving fast, and I don't want you finding out about a real finalized rule secondhand, days after it actually matters. Let's make sure you fully understand how OPT actually works today, because that context matters enormously here. OPT isn't a separate visa. It's temporary work permission tied directly to your existing F1 student status, and the work has to be directly related to your field of study. The process starts with your designated school official, your DSO, entering an OPT recommendation into USCIS, the federal system that tracks international student records. After that, your school issues you an updated I-20, and you file Form I-765 with USCIS to request your actual work permit, the EAD. Filing that form doesn't mean you can start working immediately. You have to wait for USCIS approval and the official start date on your card. Standard OPT gives you up to 12 months of work authorization. If you have an eligible STEM degree, you may later qualify for a 24-month STEM OPT extension, which combined can give you up to 36 months total. And the filing windows genuinely matter here. For regular post-graduation OPT, you can generally file up to 90 days before your program end date and no later than 60 days after it, and your form has to reach USCIS within 30 days of your DSO entering that recommendation into USCIS. For the STEM extension, you can generally file up to 90 days before your current EAD expires, and it must usually be filed within 60 days of your DSO entering the STEM recommendation. Here's the part I really need you to hear. Those are today's real deadlines, right now, and a news report about a possible future fee does not pause a single one of them. This is exactly where a scary headline can cause real, avoidable damage. Let me walk you through an example. Imagine a student, we'll call him Daniel, finishing his master's degree this December, hoping to move into a data analysis role through OPT. One morning, he sees a social media post claiming every international student now has to pay $100,000 immediately. He panics, stops talking to his DSO, and delays gathering his documents, convinced there's no point anymore. Weeks later, he finds out there was never any active fee to begin with. His real problem was never the reported number. His real problem was the time he lost believing it. So, who could actually be affected if this idea eventually becomes a real, final rule? First, F1 students planning to apply for OPT after graduation. Second, students already on regular OPT who are hoping to move into the STEM extension. Future international students considering a U.S. degree at all could factor this into their decision too, since post-graduation work experience is a huge part of why people choose to study here in the first place. Employers would feel this as well, especially companies across tech, engineering, finance, healthcare, and research that regularly hire international graduates. If students had to cover a fee like this themselves, many simply couldn't afford it. If employers had to absorb it, smaller companies and startups might become far less willing to sponsor OPT workers at all. Universities could feel real pressure too, since international tuition is a major source of revenue, and if working in the U.S. after graduation suddenly becomes dramatically more expensive, some families may start looking seriously at other countries instead. I want to be completely clear, though. All of this is a possible downstream effect, not a confirmed outcome. Just as important, let's talk about who is not facing any automatic change today. You do not owe $100,000 simply because you hold F1 status. A pending I-765 has not been denied because of this news. An already approved OPT work permit has not been canceled because of this report. No employer has received any order to pay this fee for any current OPT worker. And there's no confirmed rule targeting any single nationality specifically. If a real rule does eventually get issued, the filing date could end up mattering enormously. A future rule might apply only to applications filed after a certain date. It could include pending cases, or it could specifically protect them. Nobody should confidently claim to know the answer until official legal text actually says so. Here's the first real concern worth sitting with. The legal status of this idea right now is simply a reported discussion, not a rule. A genuine federal rule has to identify the specific agency, the legal authority being used, exactly who it covers, the fee amount, how it's paid, and precisely when it begins. A headline can travel a lot faster than an actual law does, and that gap is exactly where fear tends to spread fastest. It's also exactly the kind of gap scammers love to exploit, sending fake payment demands, claiming they can protect your OPT case for a fee, or asking for private information under pressure. There is no legitimate reason to ever pay a private individual money for a fee USCIS has not officially required. The second real concern is simply the size of the number itself. $100,000 is a genuinely massive figure, arriving on top of years of tuition, rent, insurance, and everyday living costs students have already paid. Even with a solid job offer in hand, an entry-level salary likely couldn't absorb a cost like that, and if the burden falls on the employer instead, the job offer itself could be what's at risk. Picture a graduate, we'll call her Sarah, finishing a computer science degree with a job offer from a small software company. That company can pay her a normal, competitive salary, but it cannot realistically absorb an extra $100,000 immigration cost on top of that. If a future rule placed that cost on the employer, the offer could simply get pulled. There's a longer-term concern, too. A lot of graduates use OPT specifically as a bridge, time to prove themselves to an employer while that company decides whether it's worth sponsoring an eventual H-1B case. OPT doesn't promise an H-1B. It doesn't promise a green card, but it gives students and employers real time to figure out what comes next. A fee this large could genuinely weaken that entire bridge. Some students might leave the U.S. sooner than planned, and some employers might simply recruit fewer international graduates going forward. So here's exactly what you should actually be doing right now today. If you're preparing for regular OPT, talk to your DSO early, confirm your exact program end date, and ask precisely when your OPT recommendation will be entered into USCIS. Review your updated I-20 carefully, file the correct I-765 with proper evidence, and keep a complete copy of every form, notice, and school communication you receive. If you're already on OPT, keep following your current work rules exactly and track your unemployment days closely. Regular OPT generally allows no more than 90 days of unemployment, and the STEM extension caps you at 150 days total. If you're planning to request STEM OPT specifically, start early, confirm your degree actually qualifies, complete Form I-983 with your employer and DSO, and check the expiration date on your current EAD carefully. Don't wait around for a possible fee announcement and accidentally miss a real, existing deadline in the meantime. If you're an employer, please don't cancel a hiring plan simply because of a headline. Check your worker's actual current authorization, watch for genuinely official notices, and speak with qualified immigration counsel if a specific case gets complicated. And there are a few things nobody should do here. Don't send money to anyone claiming this fee must be paid today because it doesn't exist yet. Don't share your USCIS password, passport number, SEVIS number, or receipt number with anyone you don't know. And please don't make a major travel, school, or career decision based on one video, one post, or one headline alone. Watch instead for genuine official action from USCIS, from DHS directly, and from the Federal Register, which is where federal agencies formally publish proposed and final rules. When a real document actually appears, read past the headline. Check the actual start date, exactly who has to pay, and which specific OPT group is covered. Let's quickly correct a few claims already spreading online. Some posts are saying every OPT student must pay $100,000 right now. That's false. Other posts claim OPT has already been canceled entirely. Also false, eligible F1 students can still use the current OPT process exactly as before. Some people are claiming every pending OPT case will automatically be denied. That's not supported by anything reported so far. And some are confidently stating that employers will definitely be the ones paying this fee. That's not confirmed either, and anyone claiming certainty on it right now is simply going beyond what's actually been verified. Here's the honest, realistic bottom line. This reported idea is genuinely serious, and if it eventually becomes a broad, final rule, it could create a major barrier for international students and the employers who hire them. But most people watching this video tonight are not facing an immediate $100,000 bill. This report, by itself, does not cancel your current status, does not cancel any existing work permit, and does not erase any filing duty you already have under today's rules. Good records and early preparation can't control future policy decisions made in Washington, but they can absolutely protect you from the mistakes that actually are within your control right now. Before you go, make sure you've hit subscribe and turned on notifications, because we will be tracking this story closely, whether this idea quietly disappears, gets formally proposed, or shows up in the Federal Register as an actual rule with real dates attached. If this video helped you separate the real facts from the panic online, share it with an international student, a recent graduate, or an employer who genuinely needs clear information right now instead of fear. Thanks so much for watching. Stay informed, prepare early, protect your records, and make your next decision based on facts, not fear.